That's mostly centered for the people on TikTok, and everybody else can see. So we are currently in Rohan, but let's go all the way out. So this is the map of Middle Earth, right? So if you've never played this game, matter of fact, let me get my notebook because this will be a great clippable moment to put on YouTube. Because Rodrigo was asking, can you go everywhere in Middle Earth that you can go in the books? And you can. So, this is the world map of Middle Earth in Lord of the Rings Online. So, we are in Rohan right now. So, if you look how each one of these, if you hover over them, it gives you a circle with the crosshair in the middle. That means that's an expandable region of the game, right? So, if you were to start off in the Shire, as an example, you would start off in Eriador. We would open up the Eriador map, and then within the Eriador map, we can see regions like Fororkel, Evendem, Ered Luin, the North Downs, Angmar, Etten Moors, Trollshaws, Eregion, Dunland, and the Shire, Yonder Shire, so on and so forth, Breeland, right? So if we were to start in the Shire, we would click here and we would go to the Shire. Now we're in the Shire map, right? And here, when you create if you create a Hobbit in this game, I can't remember exactly. I think it puts you through over in Breeland, but then you can travel back to the Shire. I don't remember exactly where it puts you when you start a new character. But once you're through character creation and everything else, you can come to the Shire. And there is literally a quest, and I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me right now, where you follow in the footsteps of Bilbo, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he gives you like the maps that you can like mount on your wall, and you get the housing item where you get the cloak um, like stand for the door, and you can put hats and stuff on it. I can't remember the guy's name. Anyway, so you could create a character in the Shire, and if you wanted to follow in the footsteps of the hobbits, which is what you're doing essentially in this game, you are following in the footsteps of the Fellowship as they go through the game. You would go from the Shire, and you would head over to Breeland. You would make your way to Buckland, across the ferry, through the Old Forest, down to the Barrow Downs, and notice that each one of these is an expandable map. So the Old Forest is an expandable map. The Barrow Downs is an expandable map. And you get into the map, Southern Bree Fields, and then we get into Bree Town itself, and you're in Bree. And we can go to Staddle and so on and so forth. And you can make your way to the Lone Lands, where we end up at Weathertop. And then from Weathertop, you make your way continuing east to Osgurth, cross the last bridge, and you head on into the Trollshaws. Within the Trollshaws, you'll find POIs like, the Stone Trolls Glade, where you can go find the 3 stone trolls from the Hobbit novel, and you can eventually make your way to Rivendell, and then from Rivendell, depending on whether or not you're following in the footsteps, Bingo Boffin. That is the name of the quest, Megan. Thank you so much. The Bingo Boffin quest line. That's the one where you're literally following along the footsteps, and he gives you these really cool maps when you finish his storylines, which you can mount in your house. And there is housing in this game. There's also guild housing in this game. It's really cool. Anyway, once you get to Rivendell, if you're following Bilbo's journey, you would go up to the Misty Mountains. You've got to go to Gollum's Cave. Gollum's Cave is so cool. The first time I found Gollum's Cave, I'm wandering through Goblin Town, right? And you come across the wall paintings of what where the goblins have scratched this creature onto the walls of the cave with paint and everything. And then go from there. So then if you're following in the story of the Fellowship of the Ring, and this game, Volume 1 has you doing a bunch of stuff in the Shadows of Angmar, which is the base game. But then once you get into the expansion, which is Moria, everything from Moria onwards, you're following in the footsteps of the Fellowship of the Ring. And by the way, some of my favorite quest lines are when you're working your way down the Anduin, And you're literally like watching the cutscenes with Boromir and Pippin and Merry and everything that's happening at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring novel, right? As the Fellowship is shattering, and you're watching all these cutscenes and you're going through and following in their footsteps. There's a lot of stuff. Anyway, so from here, if we were going to go and follow in the footsteps of like the Fellowship, they would then go down into Eregion, and from Eregion, they would make their way to the walls of Moria. Once you get to the walls of the Moria, you make your way to Durin's Door. Once you're in Durin's Door, you're actually in Moria. This is one of the biggest expansions I've ever played in like an MMO before, outside of maybe Planes of Power for EverQuest 1. Moria is massive. Each one of these is a region. Waterworks, Flaming Deep, Silvertine Loans, Renhard Loans, blah, 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 blah. You're going to spend a lot of time in Moria, in the dark. The last time we did this together was probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, actually, now by now. My brother and I and some friends got together. It took us 3 months, and we were playing like 4 times a week for about 3 hours each session. It took us about 3 months to get through the entirety of Moria before we got out to the other side, to the Dimral Dale, and then from the Dimral Dale we were able to go on down to Karis Galadon, which is where Galadriel lives, and then from here we get to the Great River, or in the case of here we can go to Mirkwood, depending on where you want to go from here, but Mirkwood, and then Dol Guldur, and all this other stuff. Go back to Lothlorien, we can go down the Great River, follow the Great River down, and then we get into, I believe I'm currently in the Wildermoor, which is where my character is right now. I'm in the Wildermoor, which is a part of Rohan. But then we get into Rohan itself, Fanghorn Forest, Isengard, Edoras, Helm's Deep, the Norcrofts, the Broadacres, the Sutcrofts, blah, blah, blah. Go to Gondor, Western Gondor, Eastern Gondor. Want to go to Mordor? Let's go to Mordor. Like, the Plateau of Gorgoroth. Like, everything that is in the books, from The Hobbit through The Lord of the Rings, and all the appendices, is in this game. So yes, you can literally travel to every single location. Yeah, the game is massive, but it's also 19 years old at this point. It's had a long time to put out content. Are they in the games? Frodo and... Yes, so the main storyline, once you get to the Moria expansion, is literally you following in the footsteps of the Fellowship of the Ring. So when you go to Rivendell the first time, you're literally meeting up with all of the entire Fellowship. The Fellowship is there when you go to Rivendell for the first time, because they are there during the break, right? So when you go there the first time, you're following in their footsteps as they are getting to Rivendell. And then you get to Rivendell, they're there. They're in the time when they're waiting, and Narsil's being reforged and everything else. And then they take off on December. Around the 25th of December is when they leave Rivendell to go on their adventure. So you are following in their footsteps as you go through that journey. So all of the companions are here. Everybody from the books is here. You will be working with many of the characters. Matter of fact, the one of the reasons we're playing on Sunday nights right now with my brother's kids is because they're getting into Lord of the Rings. So the big thing for them is they got, I think it was maybe a month ago we did Weathertop, right? And then right after that, before that we had gone to the Prancing Pony, and they're like, oh my god, the Prancing Pony, oh my god, there's Gandalf, and they're meeting with Gandalf, and they're meeting with Aragorn, and there's all these characters that they're interacting with. And so for the kids, it's this interactive experience. But even for me, as a lifelong Lord of the Rings nerd, it's an interactive experience. So yes, it is free to play. There's a monthly sub. Free to play gets you, I think, up to like level 90, Helm's Deep, I think, something like that. It's like 6 months worth of content easily for free. And then there's an optional sub, which I've ran most of the years I've played this game, because you get tons of points and everything else that you can spend in the store. Hang on, I gotta scroll through chat. There's a whole bunch of chat going on. Yeah, if you love Middle-earth, this is it's an easy game to get immersed in, even though it is dated. The first thing is like the graphics are dated, but mostly it's this. Look at the hotkey load. Look at how many fucking abilities I have on my hotbar. I only use like 4 of those abilities. That is an old school design thing from 20 years ago, back when games had, 10 hotbars. Nobody does that anymore, right? That is a throwback to the times from before. Um, do I still do game development? Nope, not anymore. I haven't for a couple of years. I do this full time now. Anyway, that was to answer Rodrigo's question about. I don't remember what the original question was. I don't remember exactly how he worded it. Something about, can you go everywhere from the books? And yes, you can go everywhere from the books. Let me get caught up on the rest of chat. Do I play World of Warcraft? Not anymore. I haven't played since the War Within. Do you travel with the Fellowship? No, you just bump into them occasionally. Correct. You are literally following in their footsteps. So the Fellowship has always been to the locations that you go to before you get there. So you're always just behind them because they are off on their separate adventure. You are not part of the Fellowship, so you are not adventuring with the Fellowship. You are interacting with the world of Middle-earth as the Fellowship moves through the world of Middle-earth. What are the classes? There's a whole bunch of videos on my YouTube channel in the Lord of the Rings Online playlist. There's a ton of classes. Yes, I have a YouTube channel. We are live on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and TikTok right now in all 4 places, and everything in between happens on YouTube. And yes, I have a massive playlist for this game because I used to play it a lot. I don't play it a lot anymore, but there's probably 1,000 videos on my YouTube channel with this. It needs an updated model. Honey, it's a 19-year-old game. It's not going to get looking any better just magically because they're not going to be investing that kind of money into it. They have done a great job of modernizing over the years, most recently with the new UI update that just happened last week. Actually, this past week, like 4 or 5 days ago, which now allows us to do UI scaling up to 4K, which is awesome. But yeah, they've already done a bunch of upgrades to the graphics over the years, but don't expect it to suddenly magically look like a 2026 game. That's not going to happen. Roman says, I was looking through the map and it's absolutely massive. Can you go to Shelob's lair? I don't know that I've ever been to Shelob's lair. So I'm not sure if you can go there or not. Anyway. That'll be a great video to clip out on YouTube.